They carried chilling secrets along with their meager belongings as they fled their Southeast Asian homelands, seeking refuge from the war. But for many of the Laotian, Vietnamese, and Cambodian émigrés of the 1970s, new battles would emerge after they made it safely onto Iowa soil. Some women were unable to unpack the painful secrets they had tucked away of sexual assaults by strangers or relatives in the old country. Their burdens multiplied, compounded by fresh assaults in their new homeland. The years of silence stretched into decades, into a new millennium. How do we lift the crushing load so that they can walk straight again? How do we unburden our mothers' backs? In Laos, the communist victory in 1975 had caused great upheavals. There was a purge of government forces, and thousands were sent away to re-education camps. This family left in 1980. The father was wanted by the communists.
Well, we paid the people on the rowboat to take us to Thailand, crossing the Mekong. I knew we had to be quiet, and it was very scary. It was after midnight. That's when we escaped. We used flashlights. We were not supposed to be spotted by anybody. It was very scary. Our parents told us not to talk, not to cough, not to cry. It was just complete silence.
There were 22 of them on 2 boats, including this family with 8 children, another family, and the people running the boats. That's how they reached the refugee camp.
We stayed in the camp in Thailand, in Nong Khai, for a few months. It was directly across from Pakistan in Laos. After that, we registered to come to the United States. My aunt was here. My aunt was the first family members to come. So that's the reason why we signed up to come to America. But we were transferred first to the Philippine camp. We stayed there for a few months. I remember things happened in the Philippine camp. I think I was about 11.
The camp was like a block, a square. The homes were small apartments surrounding an office, school, and takraw fields, she said. People would hang out in the square, right in the middle.
It was kind of fun, actually. It was so crowded and so close to everybody. There was a lot of single people and a lot of young families. So there were a lot of cases of abuse that I would witness. Well, one particular family that we lived next door to, they were a young couple with one child. We could hear everything that was going on, so I think that the wife was being abused, beaten, as well as sexually. The guy drank a lot. We could hear the beating, and our parents were just like, go to sleep, just ignore them. They're fighting, they're a couple. They always fight, you know? Everybody knows that he's always beats her and then forces her to have sex.
She was very scared, so she just stayed silent and pretended nothing had happened.
And you know, she get bruises the next day, and she'll be crying on the doorstep. That's all she does, be crying on the doorstep. I'm surprised my dad didn't punch him out. You know what I mean? But we don't do anything because we don't see that as an assault. Back then we see that as a problem, a miscommunication. You know, you are a female, you are a wife, that's your obligation. That's how you know that's how it is. And then the man, his duty is to provide for the family. And the woman, her duty is to provide to the man and to the children in the house. And at the camp, you would never want to be separated from your family and your spouses because you are in transition. You know, it's like we are already in a hardship time. We cannot afford to have a separation.
In fact, many reports say if a woman was raped in the camp, she would be forced to marry her rapist. Otherwise, the rumors would spread like wildfire.
People talk about it all the time. She's been raped by that guy last night, and that's it. And she get married to him. Yeah, it's bad. And the parents come together, the elders come together, they make them get married. Why? Well, because she was supposed to be a virgin. Seriously. And if you're not a virgin, nobody want to marry you. These were actually teenage girls like 17, 18. They had no choice in saying, I don't want to marry him. He raped me.
Then there's the victim blaming. Parents, or even the entire community, hold the woman responsible for the assault.
Because you weren't being careful. You were probably leading him on. You know what I mean? That's how Lao people are. We're not being careful. Being a female, you have to be careful. And women have no choice because I think it's because there's no way of making a living. If you want to make a living, you hope to find a rich man because it's not like here we can go to study and apply for a good job.
Prosecuting abusers was left to a council of elders.
There are no organizations. If anything happens, if there is a dispute, you go to the head of the village, okay? There's no police. Everybody makes their own rules. The head of the village will call a meeting with the elders, and then they will tell the one who are fighting, these are the rules. We've got to stay united. There's no court, no, system like that. When I was young, I heard this woman say that he loves her, but she's so sick she can't have sexual intercourse. So what she did was she found him another wife. So that way she doesn't have to, she still have married to him, but she found him another wife to provide that duty. And she still has the family. They do that in Laos.
I had left Laos with my 3 daughters. My husband went to live with his mistress. He lives with her until now. And he called last Saturday asking for money, and I told him to go die. He's never asked how his children were doing. I didn't leave him or divorce him. So the communists became victorious in 1975. 5 years later, we escaped at night around 9 or 10. The entire village left, maybe about 40 families. We reached the Thai border in the morning. We all escaped together. The houses were all burned down. The houses where nobody lived were burned. You had to hide, and if they found you, they would kill you. Whoever had a husband in the military, they took and killed. So where there were bombs being dropped, a fire would erupt. My 2 young daughters weren't wearing any shoes. The thorn poked their feet until they were all black. I was holding a flashlight and tying my youngest daughter to my back so I can sleep at night. And the guard took us to the camps. I think that they knew I didn't have a husband, so they could come and try to molest me. They thought they could do whatever to me, and I would let them.
She was first raped by her husband's friend. She said she didn't want to talk about the attack, only that 2 days later he left for America with his wife. She talked about an assault on someone else at the camp.
In the Camp Napo, this one girl had a guy took her and tied her up to a banana tree. He beat her and raped her. And then they got parade around naked for everyone to see. The military was all lined up in front of the camp. They made the men and women walk back and forth naked. They want to make an example of them. They didn't want others to do the same. They wanted to make an example of these two. It was harsh. The soldier beat them. Then the man was married.
Then she talked about her own attack.
And that night, I was asleep. This man whom I hated sneaked in. I didn't want to marry him, so he wanted to harm me. I had a sickle, a knife, with a curved blade. Then I heard a noise. We were head to head. Our heads were next to each other, just a wall separating us. If you toss and turn, someone in another family is awakened because all the plywood Planks are linked to each room in the camp complex. So you're leaning against each other. There isn't a wall separating the rooms. They're mixed section, but they didn't touch the ground. Each room has a wooden rod blocking the door. You put the rod through the door, then you take a rope and tie it to this or that. I was scared, so I tied it up so no one could break in. The man started coming in and he touched my head. He was feeling around my head and I woke up. I was just wondering what it was, so I touched it and it was a person's hand. I moved away. There were two people, only one person came in. One person was pushing behind. My attacker had made a hole first. One man came in first and touched my head, and I moved down, away. When I moved down, I grabbed my knife. The light came through from the hospital, and he saw it. I raised the knife backward, and I swiped it. He went back out of the hole. I struck the wall. Then I pulled the knife out, and the man saw it. I was mad. I yelled at the top of my lungs. I woke up the entire building. We just have one person from each building be a night security guard.
She was crying as she related her ordeal. The morning after the attempted assault, the elders debated the case and passed a judgment. He should apologize to the elders and pay a fine.
Then he didn't do it because he didn't have anything. When you are in the camps, you don't have any money or anything. It's too poor. The elder asked me before he came and did this, "Did you agree with him to come?" I said, "No, I didn't know anything about it." They thought I liked him. And I said, if I liked him, I would have opened the door for him. Everyone around the community gossiped later that I was asking for it, that I wanted to be raped. In Laos, you have to pay them, like with a pig, and apologize to the spirit for such a crime. If you don't apologize to the spirit, they can come harm you. If you have relatives, they can come harm your relatives.
She is at times forgiving, at times feisty.
So he wasn't my husband. If it was my husband, it would be different. Other people, it's a different situation. My second husband once sent one of his friends over from Laos to sleep with me. I told his friend, if you want to die, come in. I will kill you if you come in. I will run to the front of the camp and yell that you raped me. I had to fight for my survival. Well, right now my second husband is paralyzed. His karma got to him, and he lives in California.
In Taidam land, when I was 13 years old, I would find stuff to make fabric. I would go out and find the fabric and work out the threads, and then later in the morning, I would use a kind of loom to reweave it. In the morning, we would work on making the fabric and food. Then later in the afternoon, we would go out and help out in the rice fields as well as work in the forest to find food. In the morning, the men worked in the rice fields, and then they would have to take the buffaloes out with them to work the fields. At noon, they would come home to eat. I would have to make lunch for them. Then after they ate lunch, they would go out and do the same thing. They would return really late in the evening. The men learned how to read and write in Taidam, but they never taught women how to read and write. They didn't want us to be smarter or clever than our husbands. They said if you were smarter, meaning if you knew how to read and write, then your husbands would die. Can you believe they would say such a thing?
Puberty was handled just as glibly.
When I had my period for the first time, I thought I was going to die. The blood was running down my legs. When I told my mom about it, she said, "Oh, that's just what women go through." That's how I found about it. We didn't have underwear, it just bled. The 3 and 4 days, I just let it all out. Sometimes I would pull my dress closer to me and block the blood. I never talked about it to my daughters either. They just knew it was going to happen. My oldest daughter would tell them. They just knew.
Her first husband, a soldier, died in the war.
I liked him. If you didn't like each other and your parents forced you to get married, you would be scared on your wedding night. If a woman didn't want to have sex with her husband, and if her husband wanted to have sex with her, then her father would tie her spread eagle to a log and force her husband to have sex with his daughter that way. It happened to my cousin. Her dad and my dad, as brothers, arranged the marriage. She really hated the guy. She would scream and curl up in a ball in the corner of the room and just wail. Once she ran into the forest. Her dad and my dad went looking for her, and when they found her, her dad bound her up so tight, tied her up for her husband. She was tied up so her husband can have sex with her, and after that, she just learned to live with him. A tied-up woman can't go against her parents' wishes. If she did, her parents would throw her out. In tied-up land, where would you go? You can't even kill yourself. The man you married has already started to help your parents in the field, so you can't kill yourself. And the community leaders were just as terrible. They would take the women who were pretty as concubines. The woman could not refuse. Having sex against her will was considered okay.
She was 16 when he saw her and asked her parents for her hand in marriage.
I married him. It is what my parents told me to do, so I did it. His parents brought over a pig and we ate it. Then he lived with us. He was not a nice man. He left me. I did not know what I did. My parents were very mad at me when he left. They had to pay back the pig that he gave us for marrying me. It doesn't matter if his leaving was not my choice. He still left me. So that means that we had to pay the penalty for him leaving me. My parents did not have a lot of pigs, so when we had to give one of our pigs away, it cost them a lot of money.
Sex with her husband was traumatic.
I didn't know what to do when he married me. When we got married, he wanted to get on top of me. But he was very fat and I was scared. I thought he was going to crush me and I would die. So I didn't want him to get on top of me at all. So I fought him, and then he was not nice to me. He hit me in my face and hit me in my vagina many times. I didn't want him to be on top of me, so I pushed him off. He got so mad that he went to get the broom that I swept the floor with and hit me in my vagina. He just kept hitting me over and over again. It hurt very bad. I had to just lay there because I knew if I got up, my mom and dad would yell at me to go back to my husband. Then he tried to put the stick in me. So I grabbed my skirt and held it in between my vagina so that the stick would not go in. And I turned on my stomach so my back was only showing. Then he hit me in my butt. I think he got so tired he just stopped and went to sleep. I did not sleep through though because I was scared that he would wake up and try to get on top of me. My vagina and my butt were hurting really bad. I tried to be very quiet when it was time for me to get up to make breakfast before he went to the fields. It was hard because everything hurt. I could feel the bruises. When I went to get some food, my mom came with me and she was very mad at me. She told me that I should not fight him. That is what wives are supposed to do. To let their husband get on top of them to have sex. I didn't know. I didn't like him yet. He was very fat and I was very small. Small like I am now. I was scared. I told her that I didn't want him to do that to me. Then she said that night I would have to open my dress for him so he can have sex with me no matter what. She said that my dad would get mad at me and beat me too if I did not open my dress for him. My parents were there in the house too. What can they do? He is my husband. He can do whatever he wants. I should have let him get on top of me. It was my fault. In Thailand land, if you don't have a husband, what can you do? You can do nothing without a husband. It is important for you to have one. You don't want to be old and be without a husband. Who would take care of you then? Your parents would hate you, and they would kick you out of their house. They want girls to marry so the husbands can help work on the fields with the fathers. You have to listen to your parents. It is very important.
The nightmare continued.
I was scared all day after my first night. After breakfast, my dad came up to talk to me, and he hit me in my face. He told me that I was not being a good daughter. He told me to satisfy my husband before he leaves me. Then I would disgrace my family and my brothers and sisters. My husband stood behind me, laughing at me when my dad hit me. Then when they left, my mother yelled at me for getting my dad mad. Now he was going to be tired out in the fields because he had to waste his energy on teaching his daughter. All day long I was scared. He was fat. Oh, he was so fat. He was going to crush me, and I knew it. The nighttime came. My dad knew I was scared. He didn't want me to run away from my husband, so he tied my hands up like this. He did that so I couldn't push him away from me. Then he left my husband and me. Then my husband took off his pants and brushed up my dress. I wanted to push down my dress and cover my legs, but he grabbed my legs. Then he kept my legs open with his knees. Then he took his penis and put it inside me really hard. It hurt very badly. It hurt because the night before he kept hitting me with a stick and kept jamming it inside me. So when he put his penis in me, it hurt even more. He was heavy on top of me. He was so fat. His stomach was so big when he lay on top of me, it hurt so bad because he lay on top of my hands that were tied up, so that even hurt more.
Why would her parents allow their daughter to be raped?
Rape? No, he was my husband. I was just scared that he would kill me because he was so fat. You have to do that when you get married. That is what married people do, have sex. He just gets on top of you and he has fun. It hurts. I bled when I had sex. He was a man who liked to hit a lot. I do not know why he did what he did. I could not fight him because every night he would tie my hands up so he could have sex with me. I don't know why he tied my hands up. I was not going to fight him anymore. I didn't want my parents to get mad at me if I didn't have sex with him, so I wasn't going to fight him. I don't think my mother was worried about the beating. He was a very good worker in the field. He worked really hard. That is why he ate so much, because he worked so hard. My parents liked him.
She herself was conflicted.
I was sad when he left, so my dad found me another husband. He came back from the war and married me. I went with him to Hanoi. He was a very nice man. When you do not have a husband, there is no one to take care of you. You become a burden on someone else. When I was not married, I took care of all the children so my sister and her husband could work in the fields for food. Then one day, a man, a Thailand leader, came to my sister's house. I didn't know why he was there. I thought he wanted to talk to my brother-in-law. This man was not nice to me. He started to try to have sex with me. I didn't want him to, and I told him not to. I told him that I had to take care of the kids, or they would get hurt. I told him not to, but he was on top of me, and he didn't listen to me. So I had to let him.
She blames herself for her child's mental disability.
That is why my child is cursed. I let a man do that to me when he was already married. He was married, and I let him have sex with me. That is why they cursed me. They gave me a child who was not able to help herself.
She was born on a farm in a western province of Cambodia in 1965. That was 10 years before the Khmer Rouge took control of the country, forcing the family to flee to Thailand because her father was a government soldier.
My grandpa owned a farm. My parents were always also farmers. But my dad enrolled in the military and left to defend our country before I was born. When he came back, I knew how to walk already. I had 2 sisters. I'm the middle child. After my dad left us for the military, my mother worked hard trying to take care of us. None of us went to school there because there were no schools in town.
She used the word sad when she described her younger self. It seemed like she could never do anything right, she said.
I was raped by my father's younger brother when I was 6 years old. I was playing hide and seek with my friends, and I ran in my room and hid under the blanket, and my uncle was under the blanket. He grabbed me and touched me, and he raped me. I didn't tell my parents. I don't know why. I was afraid that they might not believe me. But I did try to tell my mom that it hurt down there. But my mom just said that I probably had rashes because my legs were always chubby and they rubbed against each other whenever I moved. I couldn't wear pants. I had to wear a skirt. I tried to explain to my mom that it hurt down there, but she always thought it was just a rash. I couldn't tell her what happened. I don't know why I didn't tell her. I don't know. Maybe I was just scared. I just don't know. I was just afraid that she would say that I'm making it all up and not believe me.
The silence continued as the attacks escalated.
You know how we are kids, like we played hide and seek and we go hide wherever, in the closet, under the table, under the staircase, crannies in the closet, wherever I hid. Somehow he was always there. I was hiding in the closet and he was there. He touched my private parts. When I tried to run, he grabbed me from behind and kind of hugged me from behind. First I thought he was playing with me.
The attacks halted when another uncle began to babysit for the family.
I didn't know whether he knew what was going on or whether they had talked because my other uncle always took me with him. Just like he knew what was going on and he knew not to leave me alone with his younger brother. This uncle was very nice and he was a young man then. And when he went out to visit girls, he would take me with him. Then he got married and he moved away, and I remember I was sick and I just didn't want him to leave because I was scared that the younger uncle would rape me. A short time after he left, it happened to me again. Only this time it was with my younger uncle. He involved a half-uncle who was a child of one of my grandpa's 2 wives. My half-uncle hurt me, and with the help from my younger uncle. At that time, I was about 9 years old.
The extended family was living with the grandparents in a large 3-story home.
The house had 3 floors, and everybody lived on each floor. I remember only 2 floors that were completely done. My dad picked the bottom floor, and everyone else picked the 2nd and 3rd floors. I don't know what happened that day because no one was home. Only my uncle and my half-uncle were home with me. They hit me and dragged me upstairs. They pulled my hands up and tied them to a chair, and my uncle just stood there holding on to me and let my half-uncle rape me. When they left, I just sat there in the dark until someone began calling my name. Then I came downstairs. I was just speechless. I didn't say anything to anyone. I just don't know how I felt. I was lost, I was confused, I didn't know what to think.
She sounded resigned to the crime, but resentful of her father.
I feel bad and sad now. I'm not mad at my uncles, but I'm mad at my dad for not being there to protect me. The community here thinks I'm easy. I blame myself because maybe I haven't been a good kid, or I must have done something wrong. I don't know. I'm being punished for something I did in the past life, maybe.
Then she opened up about her victimization as an immigrant in the United States.
I don't know why these things keep happening to me. First my uncles raped me, then my boyfriend.
Talking about the happy times makes her wistful.
I met him at a casino where we both worked part-time. When I first saw him, I wasn't attracted to him at all. I thought it was fate, my knight in shining armor. Like in my dream, everything was white. Even his clothes were white. I dreamt that we were in this room together and we were sitting on a couch talking, and I thought it was nice. I had never felt so comfortable and safe. On my second day of working there, I told him about my dream seeing him, and he's like, "Whoa, wow." Then he added, he's nobody special. To make a long story short, we dated and our relationship had its ups and downs. He soon proposed to me.
But she was not prepared to settle down yet, she told him.
With all my anxiety attacks and depression, I just couldn't take it, and I needed space from him. But before we got engaged, I was not allowed to go anywhere without him. When I went to community college, he would follow me. He was not mad at me, but he followed me wherever I went. He would leave me notes, buy me flowers, and follow me. He just didn't trust me.
The wistfulness gives way to a painful memory.
When I told him that I needed a little time, he freaked out and started calling or sitting outside my apartment crying, saying he missed me and wanted to see me. Just like in the movies, he was very obsessive. I felt bad, so one day I let him back in. And that was the day he hurt me. He forced himself on me in the hallway in my apartment. I said no, but he didn't listen. He thought it was okay now that I let him back in. I remember when he was done, I couldn't get up. It hurt so badly, and I was soaked with the blood on my bottom. He didn't ask if I was okay. I told him to leave, and he just left.
Amid her pain, she held on to a disturbing shred of expectation.
I was hoping that he would offer to stay and take care of me, but he didn't even bother to look back when he walked out. After that incident, I didn't hear from him for about a week or so. And then all of a sudden, everywhere I went, he was there. He began stalking me, so I got a restraining order against him. That was when it got worse. I went to the gym and he was there, and he tried to close the door so I couldn't get out. I called the police, but they never came. This is the reason why I don't trust the law completely. A restraining order is just a piece of paper. It doesn't serve any purpose because the law doesn't enforce it.
She said she is taking better care of herself and protecting her safety now.
After several months, he stopped coming around. I carry mace with me wherever I go. I always lock my doors, watch every direction when I walk out to the parking lot at work or at the mall, everywhere, I guess. It's always on my mind. I date occasionally, but I don't totally trust the men I go out with. I have to be careful with whom I go out with now.
I grew up helping my mom cook, clean, sew, and watch my siblings. My mother went out selling fruits and vegetables. My father was a contractor in the construction business. He built houses and temples, things like that. Our family was doing okay. We were not poor, we were not rich. I was 21 years old when I got married. My husband was 28. We got married in 1962 after he graduated from college and had a stable job. He was in the military working in the payroll department. I had 6 children, 3 boys and 3 girls. My husband and my children died during the Khmer Rouge genocide. I was alone. I had no reason to live. I didn't care if the Khmer Rouge wanted to kill me because my husband and my children were gone.
But life improved as the months and years passed, and she met good people along the way. She did not forget her family, who were long gone, but she had accepted her fate, she said.
in Khao Dang. I had first got a job as a caretaker at an orphanage for girls ranging in ages from 6 to 17 years old. I was at this job for about 3 weeks, taking care of about 14 girls, when a man was transferred from another place to manage the caretakers. When he was introduced to us, I noticed that he kept staring at me. He later came to my work area and asked me how I got to the camp and whether I was married and had a family. I answered all his questions honestly. He mentioned that he was married. I was wondering why he was insisting on just talking to me. He was smiling a lot and I felt uneasy.
She learned to rely on her instincts.
That night, the moon was so bright and you can see people walking outside. I put the girls to bed and then went to sleep, but I was tossing and turning in bed. It was around 2 or 3 in the morning. I slept under a mosquito net and I saw a shadow of a person walking into the room and then disappearing. I thought to myself, was that a ghost or a human? All the girls were sleeping silently. Suddenly I saw this figure coming toward my bed, and I was trying to open up my mosquito net, so I lifted both of my legs and kicked the person, and the person fell backwards through the door and landed outside.
She also learned to be a survivor.
I had to protect myself, and I had nothing to lose. I had lost everything. I lost my husband, my children, siblings, and parents, and I survived the Khmer Rouge. So I had the camp leaders call both of us in. One of them was his friend, and he tried to say I was falsely accusing his friend, and boy, he shouldn't have said that. I stood up, pointed at the manager, and yelled at him and called him all kinds of names. His wife was just sitting there crying because she was so ashamed of her husband. I said I had witnesses. The manager said he had come there to check up on the kids. I said, yes, you should have checked up on the kids, but not that late, and your time was already up. My supervisor asked if I'd like to further file charges with even higher authorities, and I said yes. They asked me what I wanted to happen to this man. I told them that I wanted him to be released from his duty because if he was still there, the safety of the children would be at risk. They let him go. I was so angry with him.
But she did not give up easily.
After I got here to America in 1981, I saw him at an event in Minnesota. I went up to him and asked, so how important are you now? He looked down and walked away. This gave me great satisfaction.
Sexual violence is a critical issue that needs to be addressed in Asian and Pacific Islander communities. Child sexual abuse and even adult assaults often go undisclosed, or if they are spoken of, victims are denied proper assistance. The Asian and Pacific Islander Institute on Domestic Violence reports that women and girls who are sexually assaulted fear they will not be believed or feel silenced by victim-blaming attitudes in their families, or they find that disclosure doesn't lead to help and safety. Immigrants and refugees who were abused as children in their home countries might not consider going to a rape crisis center, according to the API Institute. Like those who used unsafe immigration routes or escaped violence in conflict zones and refugee camps, they may not disclose their victimization for many years. With their powerful narratives of loss, pain, and transformation, these Laotian, Thai Dam, and Cambodian women help heal the wounds, theirs and humanity's. When they share the secrets that weighed them down, they are freed of that immense burden. They open up possibilities for others likewise to share and heal, and they offer the hope of peace and safety to the next generation.